everyone, welcome to a new video. I am joined with a very special guest. You may recognise her. She has been here before. Introduce yourself.
I'm Lydia, I'm Paige's sister. I was a student and now I'm not.
She has just finished university.
If I've passed at least. And I could be a student again.
Yeah. And we're going to find out in a video on my channel next week where Lydia opens her results. So watch out for that.
That's not happening.
But today's video is all about renting as a student or young professional, just renting as a young person in your late tweens or in your 20s. Because we have experience of that.
Well, you don't have much experience.
I rented for a year, I will have you know, and Lydia has been through the hell of the London renting market recently. So we're here to tell you all you need to know.
People don't really talk about it, I feel like. I don't feel like when I was looking, first time I looked to rent, I had no idea what I was doing. I was just kind of scrolling through Rightmove.
Well, you found she had friends who were competing with her for the same house, didn't you? It's a dog-eat-dog world out there.
Oh, I forgot about that.
So let's get stuck into the first topic of the day. House hunting or flat hunting. Finding where you're going to live.
And who you're going to live with, which is arguably the most important part.
They kind of go hand in hand. Really, you need to know who you're going to live with and the location of where you need to live before you start looking for the property in a lot of cases. Do you want to talk about how you did that, sis? How did you find the group that you're going to live with?
Well, I've lived with lots of different sets of people at this point. Like my bigger group of friends, we've all kind of always lived together, but like in different mini groups.
And that was in your first year of uni, right? So you found friends in your first year of uni.
I know, shocker, I found some friends. I would say about that is people really panic, especially at other universities. It's better in London than it is elsewhere, but sometimes in some cities, you have to secure a house in like November and you've literally just met the people, so it's really hard to kind of get the vibe. And I have some friends who've had really bad experiences living with people who they've met in the first couple of weeks, panicked, agreed to live with them, and then can't stand them by the end of their second year and are counting down the days. But
renting can't possibly go wrong, everyone. It's like nothing to worry about.
I was lucky though, because in London at the time the housing market wasn't like it was now, so we didn't decide to live together until February, my group. So we actually knew each other and we knew like we could tolerate each other and got on well.
Ideally, if you've got good references for these people, you know they're good people to live with, that's your ideal. Like when I was renting, I was moving in with people I'd known for 4 years at that stage.
Yeah, but you always can't know, because I would say living with someone compared to just being friends with them, two very different things. Like some of my really good friends I could never live with. Well, there's people I've lived with before and it's not really worked out for various reasons. Point is that you've got to find people who kind of have the same standards of how they want to live, same attitudes towards how clean you want to keep the house. You know, some people like to live in a pit and that's so fine as long as everyone's kind of on that mindset. Some people like it to be spotless. Like I know some places where if you leave like a bowl out by the sink, they'll like put it in their room, which is really petty.
Basically, don't rush the decision and don't always go immediately for the people you're closest to. It might be people who you're not closest to who are actually better candidates to live with. And I guess it's also, if we're talking about leaving university and moving to a new city, you need to find people who are working in the same area as you. Ask around, ask for friends of friends.
And also, some people have great experiences living with people they've never met before. Like,
I've had that, you've had that.
Well, I've got some of my best friends who I randomly just moved in with one day and that was how we met. And it's a very intense friendship straight away. But that's why I like people on Spare Room. Like, I know people who've met really good friends on Spare Room. So if
that
you
gets
do
us
have
on
to
to
go
our next
solo,
topic. It's very common to, when you're moving somewhere new, particularly after university as a graduate, to use Spare Room to find a house to live.
But make sure you speak to the people. Don't just like go on Spare Room and send a message and then go for that. I think you do need to like at least do a FaceTime call to make sure they seem somewhat normal or just your type of person, because you know, it's kind of dangerous actually just to move in with people who you don't even have any. However, I have some weird stories that I've heard of other people who've been on Spare Room. I was to get into like a house of I think 10, so it's already quite a big house. And they literally called them up and did a formal interview with them. So that's a bit tense.
Well, I mean, in London at the moment, I know someone who was going around solo trying to look for a place to live. They were like being invited in for multiple interviews at different places, like in-person interviews.
Feels like going for a job, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's literally like going for a job.
But it's judged purely on your personality.
And then people will turn around to you after having like spent, I don't know, 2 hours interviewing you, being like, so we've decided to go somewhere else. Spare Room, we didn't actually specify. Spare Room, if you are not aware, is an app which is pretty much an operation like all over the country, right? People list the spare rooms in their house, so it's just a single room which you can rent. And often it's houses full of lots of people who are all renting a room in one house.
It's often situations where people have lived together in like a group of 5, say, and then one of them's going off to do something else, but they don't want to move house, so they're like, they'll just get someone else in. Every time that it's come to the end of my tenancy, because we've always had people going in and out, we've always then got a new place. But in hindsight, I actually think it might have been easier to list on spare room and got someone else in, given the hassle that I've had with moving recently.
Yeah. And for other platforms, if you're going as a group, I looked on Rightmove when I was trying to find somewhere to rent in Cambridge.
Zoopla. And there's also other little apps as well, but they're like the main ones.
No matter which letting agent the property is going through, they all tend to be listed on these central platforms.
They've also got Open Rent, which I tried, but I did not have a good experience with Open Rent.
Oh, really?
Because it's a different one. It's basically the landlords directly interacting with you, whereas Rightmove and Zoopla, you tend to be going through estate agents. So it's kind of like a more informal version, and then they just like message you, but they weren't very good in replying because it obviously isn't their jobs at that point.
You reduce your chances of having nightmare landlord stories if you go through a letting agent. You don't completely zero them out, but I think you do reduce them.
Yeah, well, I think if you know like a property's managed by an estate agent, that normally
at
means
least they've got a process in place.
They've got a process and there's people there. The problem is, I feel like a lot of that option to choose has been taken away because of what's happened to the houses and the renting market. Because it used to be like, so when I first rented, it was COVID, so there was so many properties, there were more properties than there were people looking to rent and move into London. And then during COVID they updated the regulations for landlords, and because of it loads of landlords sold because they were trying to make it better for renters. But I mean, yes, it's good in some senses with the stuff that they changed, but also because so many people sold, it then meant there's not enough properties, and obviously COVID being over, everyone wants to move back in all at once, which drove the prices up and just led to absolute mayhem across London. So normally my advice would be, check out the estate agents and stuff and do a little bit of background research on who you're going to be dealing with, but actually reality is a lot of the time you don't get that luxury anymore. Like, we were desperate when we were looking last time. We didn't actually view the property before we secured it.
We'll get on to viewings later, but I think in general for these platforms you can set email notifications on there, right? So you get notified when a property which comes under your criteria, so you set like the location, number of bedrooms you're looking for if you're looking in a group.
Remember to think about number of bathrooms. I feel like people forget that's an important thing. But
you don't like sharing a bathroom then?
I don't have a problem with sharing a bathroom. I have a problem if there's one bathroom for 4 people and not a separate toilet, purely on the basis of I wake up and need to go to work and someone's in the shower and I can't brush my teeth. That's an issue.
You always have a kitchen though. Always have a kitchen.
I just feel like washing your teeth in the kitchen sink's a bit grimy. That's just a hot tip from me.
Okay, that's just Lydia's priorities. You might want to consider getting 2 bathrooms for 4 people, but see what's out there. Also to be wary of when you're looking at these places that are listed, the photos are not always accurate, and sometimes they are old and they will make it look really nice.
Photos.
It will be from when it was like newly refurbished, when actually it's 10 years later and there's stains all over the carpets, the walls, the wallpaper is peeling, all that sort of thing when you go in real life. So don't trust it.
Yeah, I always enjoy seeing the old properties that I've lived in be listed, because sometimes they'll randomly come up again when I'm scrolling. I look through the photos and I go, well, these are the photos I looked at and the house looks nothing like that. Which is why it's important to view.
I think, and even if you can't get a viewing, a video tour. Let's move on to talking about viewings.
Let's talk about viewings. Viewings are a nightmare. You have to find time to go. It's normally during the week as well. So you're all... It's okay if you're students, but if you're working, it doesn't work very well because you're working 9 to 5 and chances are so are the estate agents. So trying to get someone to go...
in your lunch breaks and...
all at the end of the day, It actually caused arguments, viewings, for me and my friends last year. It was so hard to schedule them in, and we all also wanted to have a life, which is fair enough, and it turned like every spare moment we were all just rushing around to look at different houses.
And the problem is, if you're going in a group, sometimes you might not all go to the viewing or make it at the same time. So sometimes you have to trust that
you will have
one person in your group or 2 people in your group to get them to take a video. That's what happened with me. I wasn't living in or near Cambridge when we were looking for properties, so one of my friends was going to all the viewings on behalf of the group, taking videos and then sending it so then I could criticise the property and say why we didn't want to go and live there.
This is why you really need to be careful who you want to live with, because you need people who know what you want out of the house when they go to look. Like there needs to be a conversation of what are we actually looking for, what's the deal breakers, because because for me, for example, I don't like to live on main roads.
Noisy.
Because it's so noisy. I think you don't think about it when you're
Especially
viewing.
in London. I think the general thing with viewings though is don't just look at the house, look at the surrounding area.
Also check the water pressure. People never do this and it really annoys me, because then when you get in the shower for the first time and it's awful, it's your own fault. Some houses that you rent, like the landlord just not sort the water system out, and it's like showering under a sprinkler.
Ask the letting agent questions. That will make you stick in their memory, and at the end of the day they're the ones who are going to be putting you forward to the landlord.
You want them to like you because they're going to be like, oh, these people seem normal and good.
You know, emphasise we're a group of really clean, you know, tidy, young
Doesn't matter if you are or not, you need to sell yourselves a bit. And also if there's tenants there, like the current tenants, speak to them, because they're obviously the estate agent, they're trying to get you to put a deposit down and get all the commission for the house, whereas the other tenants, they've got less, they don't care if you get it or not, so they'll give you more honest answers. And just kind of almost have a list of questions like in your head, you know, has there been any problems with the property over the last 12
to cycle through them. Actually, speaking of the current tenants, one of my friends went to a viewing when we were looking and they were asleep like in the house.
Yeah, that happens
for the viewing. So I think it's especially common with young people where they might have been out on a wild night the night before, but there's viewings the next day. The house was really messy as well.
Yeah, some people like just do not tidy their houses for viewings. I don't understand how the estate agents let them get away with it, because normally I get an email from the estate agent being like, oh, you're having a viewing tomorrow, we're going to come early to make sure the house is of an acceptable standard, you know. But you go there sometimes and there's like stuff everywhere and it makes the property look even more unappealing. But yeah,
it does. You have to see through
funny.
The mess sometimes, and you have to realise that that's gonna go.
You've got to visualise, well, or it might get worse depending on what you like.
Yeah, depending on who you're living with. Anything else for viewings?
Oh, group viewings. Hell.
When you're there and other people who are
yeah, so this is what happened in London. I don't know how much it happens around the country, but I think it's happening more and more because of how bad the renting market's been. These estate agents, they're just gonna invite everyone who wants to view it in like an hour's window.
It's not even back to back, it's the same time.
Everyone goes in, you go around their house, and then at the end it's like some sort of a bid off and you're all making offers.
It's like an auction.
Honestly awful. And this is another thing to be aware of. I think we're going to get onto more about holding deposits in a minute, but we had an issue in London of people who had a bit more money than everyone else offering up 6 months rent in advance to secure the house, and that was working, which meant we people who are not in the position to put up 6 months rent in advance, which is most people to be honest, because you could just buy a house at that point, were not able to get places. And I don't know why that's allowed, to be honest. That actually annoys me that that can be allowed in the first place. Like surely there should be some regulation to stop that from happening, because you know we would still be able to pay the rent.
And I think the only thing you can do is start looking like really early. Like if you can, if you know that you've got a job starting, or I guess like you need university accommodation for the following year, the earliest point you can start looking with a group the better, because it gives you time. You don't have to make a panic decision where you're like, well, I'm gonna have to settle for this property because that's all I can get.
I was about to say,
it is that competitive.
Because I had to settle for a 6-month contract this time. It was the only place I could get, because who wants a 6-month contract? Absolutely nobody. But there was like nowhere else that we could get, and we literally, it was at the point where the tenancy on the previous property was nearly up, like I think 2 weeks later, and we weren't going to have anywhere to live, and we all had jobs in London, so we were all looking at, oh, can we commute from like homes and stuff like that, where are we all going to go? So it turned into complete panic at the end, even though we were looking for a solid 2 months.
Yeah.
So
like everyone I know who's like looking for houses, they do get, I think it's common to get stressed. Colleagues I've spoken to at work have been stressed when looking for places to live. I know my friends I was moving in with, a couple of them were stressed because they needed to be in Cambridge for their jobs on a particular day. So we needed to find somewhere. When you keep looking at properties and they're no good, it's a bit like...
It's demoralising. I actually cried at work over it.
Yeah. So
quite funny.
It's normal to feel stressed, upset, angry. It's all normal.
Yeah, it is normal because it is so difficult, and it wasn't used to be like this. Like back when, before the housing crisis and all that, the renting market, we used to go around all the different houses. We'd have a call at the end of every day to discuss all the different properties, and by this last summer it was literally just us sending messages. Is it acceptable? Yes, it will do.
Should we go on to talking about kind of, if you've decided you like somewhere, making an offer, putting down a holding deposit.
So I think we've had different experiences. You had a very formal experience. I've had largely informal experiences of making offers.
Yeah.
Like, I'm normally just texting it to the estate agent, sending an email.
When I was last kind of renting, it was in Cambridge and not London, and also a few years ago where it wasn't quite as, there wasn't as much demand.
Yeah.
It was still competitive. We tried for a few properties before we finally got one, and it was like a big celebration when we knew we'd got it, because it was between us and 5 other people who had said they wanted the property.
You must have really buttered up to the estate agent.
Yeah, but they just loved us. But you talk about your London experience and the holding deposit.
It's normally, this is our offer, these are our jobs / guarantors.
Okay.
Like, that would be the basis information that I would.
But the property is going to be advertised for X rent per month.
Yeah.
Right? Are you offering at that amount? Are you going over?
Gone are the days where you offer at that amount. We had to go way over, like, embarrassingly over.
Really?
Like, last year there was.
Do you mind saying?
Yeah, of course. The house was, the flat even, was 800 a week per person.
Mm-hmm.
We offered 910 a week per person. And the only way that we secured that last year was by agreeing to pay that straight away without seeing it, so then they would not give it to anyone else. But what's hilarious is this is happening so much, because it got done to us so many times. Well, you'd have to do that before anyone viewed the house. So you've put in that offer and it got accepted, but then they'd still run the viewings the following day for everyone. So you're going to houses that have already got an offer on them, and you're walking around thinking, well, I know I've already got this place. Why is everyone else here? And it's because they're just keeping people going until all your holding deposit and paperwork goes through, and then the actual deposit gets given, and that's when they stop doing offers. I mean, I now pay less rent because I moved again, because that was an overpriced place for not a lot, and it's a ridiculous amount you have to pay on rent, because if I heard that was how much rent I would agree to pay a few years ago, I'd say that's ridiculous. Like, we'd be offering way less than that. But the way London's gone, that is just the price.
Rent prices are just going up and up and up.
Like, that is just the reality. It's obviously cheaper if you're not renting in London, but if you have to be in London, then that is the reality.
Yeah, and your only other option is living further out, less central, and commuting.
So I've moved further out now, so I live in Stratford. So it's about an hour's commute to everywhere I want to go. But my rent is so much cheaper. It's over 200 cheaper than the previous place. So
yeah. So when kind of calculating how much you have each month to spend on rent, kind of do that balance up of what's your commute, how much are you going to be spending on your commute versus the rent.
Exactly. Because the tube prices are going up as well,
some of those,
which is fun.
Yeah.
But some people get like bus passes in some cities.
And you can get things like student discounts and 16 to 25 rail cards.
Yeah. Make sure you get your student Oyster going, because I was really lazy with that this year and probably wasted a lot of money by not sorting that out sooner. And that's another thing to say about location. In my mind, it matters more to live near good travel than to live near the actual place you're going to, like the office or the university. Yeah. Because a lot of people will live like 45-minute walks out of some place, and they're like, oh, well, it's only a 45-minute walk. And I'm like, well, I make up that time on the tube, same amount of time, and I pay less rent, and it works out cheaper. So
it's all about your transport links for your social life and other stuff that you do. It's not just your work or your studies.
Especially if you're living with people who have different places they're going each day. You want to all be able to get to your office. So normally what me and my friends have done, we're like, right, where have we all got to go? Which lines do we need?
And in contrast, in Cambridge, we had a much more kind of formal application process when putting in offers for houses. We ended up paying £1,750 per month across 4 of us, and that was what it was advertised for. We didn't offer anything above that. Considering it's Cambridge, it wasn't as cheap as...
That's cheap to me from the horrific amounts you pay in London.
Both London and Cambridge are very expensive places to live.
Move to Cardiff.
Yeah.
Honestly, my friends who rent there, houses are basically free.
But yeah, when putting in the application form, you had to kind of have the details of everyone's full names, date of births, place of work, how long they've worked there. They ask you all of these personal details. You would eventually have got to this step after your holding deposit. Once they've said, okay, yeah, we're happy to proceed with you, you start.
It's a complete nightmare filling out all the details as well, because they'll be pressuring you for it.
There's a lot of paperwork.
Estate agents get really like hard on you, but like, you're going to lose the property, blah blah blah.
Yes, they do that the whole time. They're like, we need your employment reference by this date. Yeah,
and some employers, like for example my employer, nightmare to get an employment reference from, so that took a while. And then you've got to remember to tell your boss, your manager, that they're going to be getting this call or email or whatever, because you need them to pick it up straight away. Just be like, look, I'm really sorry, here's a situation, I'm going to have nowhere to live, so if you can take that
help
call.
me out here.
That'd be really great.
Yeah, speak to your manager or your HR department, whoever you think you're going to get the quickest, most prompt response
Whoever's most on it.
And you're going to be putting their details down in your application form, and then the letting agent will be reaching out to them and getting references.
Getting references from previous places.
Yeah, previous places you've lived.
Yeah.
They will ask for references for what else is in the application form.
Your
they ask
guarantor,
your salary.
if you need a guarantor.
Guarantor.
Well, I don't know what the official salary it is that you have to be at to not need a guarantor. But to be fair, even my friends who were on decent salaries this year were still asked for guarantors, which was actually, I don't even think, right to be asked for, but just be aware that does
And the
happen.
point of a guarantor is that if you default on your rent payments, the guarantor is, going to pick them up. So you just got to find someone who trusts you that you're not going to default on your rent payments.
And you can have problems with guarantors. I'm not sure what it is exactly, but if you say live in another country, the guarantor has to be a UK homeowner. And I might be wrong. There's something, because I've got friends who've not been able to use their family as guarantors. But it is risky because you know what? I always thought, why would anyone move out mid-year? It's happened a lot. Like, in my experience, within my circle, and it was all fine, still paid rent and stuff, but obviously that can happen and you need to make sure that you're living with people that you can trust. To not run off.
They will ask for your salary information, including details of what your expected bonus might be each year. In general, it does play to your advantage if you're young professionals competing against students for properties, because
they hate students.
Students are going to be less reliable for rent payments because they don't have that steady income, and really you're looking at hoping parents can support you in whatever you get on student
Which
loan.
is why the Cambridge system is good. So the reason Paige hasn't rented very much is because it's all college housing.
Yeah.
So it's done that way, and then, I guess Cambridge are essentially your landlords, the university itself.
So I essentially lived in halls the whole way through my degree, so I only ever rented after I graduated from university and after I moved out of my parents' house.
I filled in a survey for UCL because they've realised that it's become a massive problem and students are struggling to find places. Being like, what do you think we can do? And I literally wrote, I think you need to have more halls, but not halls, if that makes sense. Like having the houses which you can rent out as students through UCL, so you're kind of protected a bit more. And they can hopefully lower the rent a bit to make it more affordable and stuff like that, because there's just nothing like that in place, because it's not really been needed before, but I feel like it is needed now. Because
it's making London quite inaccessible to study in, isn't it?
And rent is going up again by a lot. Like, we had an email from our landlord, estate agent people saying, oh, if you want to extend your tenancy, it's going to be at least a 10% increase, start making offers. And that is insane amount of increase in rent.
Because they know they can advertise it and immediately get people offering above the asking price, or offering them 6 months rent in advance. So it's a good time to be a landlord in London.
If you're a landlord, you're doing great. Is there anything else to say about making offers?
I suppose when we put in an offer, actually, we had a few circumstances where they didn't give us the property, the landlord chose another group. Normally, we would email back and say, oh, what did we do wrong? Give us some feedback for next time. And they'd be like, oh yeah, your second choice, they'll let you know if it falls through with the first group or whatever. It's like, great. We did get one property offered, and they accepted our offer, but only if we were prepared to wait before signing the tenancy agreement until like a week before we were due to move in, because they had a situation where they weren't sure if they were going to have to back out of it or not. They had people who were refusing to move out in their place, and they weren't sure if they were going to be able to get them out in time. But that was red flags, dodgy situation, and we, safe to say, did not get involved in that one and kept looking elsewhere.
Yeah, I've got a great story about that actually. So my friends, they were trying to be really on it and do things really early, and that normally worked out for them. So they secured this property and everything seemed fine. They did the holding deposit, actual deposit, tenancy agreement, all that. And then it came to move-in day, and they go to move into the property to discover there's a squatter who's barricaded himself in one of the rooms and is like refusing to come out or like talk to them, even though they were just going to just have a conversation. We just want to understand the situation and who you are, like if you're okay, and like just to discuss this because we're meant to be renting this property from today. He just passed a note out the door saying, I've got nowhere to go because I couldn't rent anywhere, and the council have just told me to stay put. And then the landlord couldn't get them out, and then they were just told job, they had to find another property.
Yeah,
and that was that.
And people do have disasters like that where they think they've got housing sorted, and it'll be like the day of, the day before, where they realise it's fallen.
Like my friends were so lucky that they had a week layover with their previous place, so they had somewhere to go. Because as they left from up north, a lot of them, and from different countries, they couldn't just go home and commute in from there. So at the time we were panicking that they weren't going to have anywhere to go, and normally we'd say, oh, just move in with us for a bit, we'll make it work, but we also didn't have anywhere to go. So
yeah, back to like making the offer though, and trying to get your property. Best behaviour when you're going to viewings: smiling faces, saying nice thing to the person who's showing you around. Try and demonstrate that you're a very nice group of people, and you never know, they might put in a good word for you with the landlord, or just be straight up with them and say, look, we're struggling to get a place, what do you think we need to do, what's the landlord looking for, kind of what do you think might get us this property. I think for us, we were waiting to hear back on the property that I eventually rented with my friends. I rung up the letting agent and I said, oh, I just wanted to see if there's any word.
You don't know how these landlords' minds work.
But you just got to be persistent, you know, keep looking around, don't put your eggs in one basket.
It's a bit like a full-time job finding a property. It took up a lot of my time last year.
Yeah, and odds are you're going to offer for multiple places, so you'll get practiced at it.
You'll get practice charming those landlords and putting in the offers.
Do you want to speak about kind of the actual deposit? So normally
5 weeks rent.
Yeah, that's kind of the normal
standard.
if your offer is accepted and when you're filling out the forms.
But you get your holding deposit back, so it always works out a bit weirdly. So it's normally, I guess, 4 weeks, is that right?
Yeah.
So holding deposit's a week's rent, so you'll get that towards your deposit.
And your full deposit is held like the whole way through your tenancy.
But it's got to be held by an external company, so make sure. Some landlords try and get around doing that, which is ridiculous. They should be doing it.
That is bad. But that's in case you damage the property.
Just so you can have a fight over getting it back at the end.
Or whatever. Yeah. It's a safety buffer for the landlord. Oh, we'll briefly touch on tenancy term.
Usually 12 months.
They're quite commonly 12 months.
I don't think I've ever seen one that's longer than 12 months.
Well, we actually had, when I was looking around in Cambridge at the time, if you offered over 12 months, you were more likely to get your offer accepted.
See, I find that strange, because I feel like it's the other way around now, because because
rent prices are increasing so much.
Oh, let's do 12 months at a time and then try and get more money. I said before, I was in a flat with a 6-month contract. It turns out because the landlords were getting a divorce and they wanted to sell the property.
No.
Good luck to them, because that property is awful. So I don't know if they're going to be selling it anytime soon. But they've got new tenants in now, because the estate agent called Shannon the other day to ask if it was all right for them to pop in and do some work, which was odd given we've not lived there for 4 months.
Not realising that your tenancy ended.
They were really bad estate agents.
Okay, sorry if the camera's moved, the battery just died, but
someone is not very prepared for filming today.
No, I didn't charge my camera batteries overnight, I'm sorry. But we were talking about tenancy agreements. Make sure you read it through, see what you're signing yourself up to, see what's your responsibility, see what's the landlord's responsibility.
And also be aware of illegal contracts, because some people, like, they read it like the Bible, the tenancy agreement, but they can't put in there something that's not under HMO licensing. You know, I always liken it to, you know, you can't, if you sign a contract to say you kill someone, you know, it's still illegal that you killed someone, you know what I mean? Like for example, a lot of tenancy agreements will be like, oh, you have to have a professional clean at the end of the tenancy, but they actually can't ask for this. That's illegal to ask for. It just has to be cleaned to a professional standard. So just watch out for little stuff like that. Like make sure they're not putting something on you which has to be on them under the law, basically.
And get second opinions from people. Don't be the only one who reads it. Get a friend or family member.
Or if you know an estate agent, get them to pass tonight.
Even better.
Because our cousin's an estate agent, so I've asked her in the past just to have a brief look over the tenancy agreement to make sure that I'm not signing something that isn't right.
We're going to talk about kind of price point and kind of splitting that between people and consideration of bills as well.
Everyone's different with how they like to do these sort of things.
Yeah.
There's some people who like to pay the same for everyone in the house. And there's some people who literally will get out meter sticks and measure all the rooms and divide it that way. I always feel like the thing to remember is you are all living in the same house. And unless someone's got, like, you know, the lush attic room with the ensuite, which is quiet and something more than everyone else, I tend to towards paying the same.
We all paid the same when I was renting, despite the fact that we had different size rooms. We all had a room that could fit a double bed. And it's just important, even when you're putting the offer in and like before you sign yourself up to this, sign your tenancy agreement, put down your holding deposit, make sure you're clear in your group of people you're living with. Say if there's one small room, is someone happy to take that small room?
Yeah.
And if so, on what basis are they happy to take that? Make sure you're clear so that when it comes
because that
to
can
it,
cause arguments, yeah. Because if there is one room that does suck, everyone else is also going to be thinking this room sucks. I don't want to be in this
they're
room.
going to think, well, I'm not going to get that room.
And someone has to
Someone
take
has
it.
to have it.
And also, don't always be the person who gives in and takes the bad room.
Fair way to draw straws, or if, you know, one year you have the bad room, maybe next year you get the good room. Rotate it
But
around.
don't let people push you about. But also don't be that awful person who goes in and demands, you know, just moves all their stuff into the biggest room and say, oh, I thought you wanted the other one.
If you're all okay with that. What I did is I took the smallest room in the house I rented, but I negotiated with my friends that I'd have use of one of the spare single rooms that we had as an office space. And I said, look, I'm happy to sleep in the smallest room if I can have an extra office space as well. My friends were fine with that.
Yeah. So. Well, I had the smallest room in my first house, and that's been my favourite room out of all the properties I've rented. Because even though, because I put a double bed in it, even though I didn't fit a double bed, because I love my double bed, I had to take out the chair for my desk because it wouldn't fit in with the chair. It was.
You can tell Lydia never works at her desk. All work gets done in bed.
I have a rule about that now. I tend to do my work on the sofa or at the library. But yeah, it was my favourite room ever because it had like a little balcony thing so you could walk out, and it was at the back of the house. It was a quiet road, but there was a restaurant opposite, and that restaurant had bins which were emptied every other morning at 5 AM really loudly. And everyone else used to wake up to it. Meanwhile, I slept like a baby at the back of the house. So even though everyone else's rooms, when we went to look around the property, were so much like nicer, I definitely won.
I think it's also about natural light as well. How big are the windows in the room?
Yeah, storage. Think about that. In my house now, one of the rooms is quite small and actually didn't have any storage space, but there's like a cupboard in the corridor, so that is that girl's wardrobe, and she uses it that way. Kind of just think about where people are going to put their stuff. But also, don't be that person, because this really infuriates me, who says, I need a big room because I have more stuff than everybody else. Isn't that, like, this has happened on multiple occasions where people have said, oh, where am I going to put my guitar? Where am I going to put my bike?
Not my problem.
Like, that is not a reason to have the biggest room in the house. I don't think that's a fair reason. Like, I think there's fairer ways to discuss who has what size room.
Yeah, I agree. Well, one of my friends who arguably had the least stuff took the room with the most wardrobe space, which really, for me, if you've seen the number of clothes I have, would have made a lot more sense. But I wasn't going to argue that one. I was happy with my arrangement.
Be a reasonable human being.
Negotiate.
Yeah.
You know, it's about compromise. I think let's also, though, talk about, you've got your rent, but you've also got your council tax, your water bills, your electricity bills,
Only council
your
tax
TV
if you're not
license.
a student. If you're a student, you don't pay council tax.
Oh,
I guess you never had that.
didn't know that.
Yeah, so students are exempt, and it's also, this is a little thing to consider for some people, because of the situation my flatmates have been in, where half of us were students and the other half were professionals, so they're the only ones responsible for the council tax. And I would have thought they calculated it on the amount of people paying it, but they don't. It's just that set amount, unless you're a single person living in the house, in which case you get single person's discount. You will still have to pay that full amount between the two of you. I think if there is, you might get the single person's discount if you're the only non-student, but the minute you're more than one non-student, you're going to be paying quite a lot of council tax. So do check the council tax brackets for where you're going to live.
I think as well, energy bills are a lot right now. They're a significant amount that you should think about. I think when I was renting, I was paying even then a few hundred per month in bills.
In my first house that I rented, I paid £40 a month for all my bills.
40?
Yep.
That's not bad.
Back in the day when stuff was cheaper.
Make sure you know who's responsible for paying each bill if you're renting in a group, and how you're going to reimburse that person each month.
That's the problem just in general with paying rent, who pays it, because no one really wants to take that responsibility and be the debt collector essentially of the group and try and manage that situation.
We set up like a finance spreadsheet, or I set up a finance spreadsheet.
Of course you made a
love a spreadsheet. And one person whose money the rent came out of each month, and we each set up a recurring monthly transfer to them.
Some people do like tri-counts or split-wise, which I hate the app split-wise. I would recommend tri-count. It's so much better.
Okay.
The American version's better. It's what I use when travelling, and it worked perfectly.
So just as a simple example, if I owe Lydia £30 but she owes me £20, then it will calculate that I owe Lydia £10. So there's only one transfer from me to Lydia rather than both ways.
But also, people can take the piss with it, and it does drive me up the wall. Like you will get that one person, and maybe you are this one person who puts on a 75p washing up liquid and, you know, asks for 12p each from you all. At which point, like, I get, you know, it's good, things need to be fair, and it's really infuriating if one person ends up buying everything.
But I bought the loo roll repeatedly when I was renting, to the point where I refused to buy any more loo roll.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, I'm going to stop and just see what happens.
You can get the two extremes, so I do see why people do it. I hope no one ever watches this, because I know.
Right. We love everyone who we used to live with.
We love you all.
Really.
We do love you all.
They probably have their own complaints about us.
Yeah, they probably. I'm probably not easy to live with. I used to, on the days where the toilet roll was running out, I would steal toilet roll from my university. And I'd have that in my room as a stash.
Yeah.
And I'd wait to see how long they'd leave it. And actually, it was shocking the amount of time people would go for without loo roll.
Really?
Yeah.
Just set your ground rules at the start and just have open communication with
It's good to communicate, because if not, there's a lot of built-up resentment.
Yeah, don't bottle it up inside.
Yeah, like, I always feel like there needs to be just a bit of give and take when you live with people, in my opinion. Like, one person shouldn't be paying for everything. It should be split as evenly as possible. But don't ask me for 12p.
I know people who go both ways. Like, one of my housemates paid for the broadband, still haven't paid him back. The number of times I said, hello, how much do I owe you for the broadband? I think I sent him a monthly message. Never told anyone.
Some people just aren't good
for that.
Money. In general, I think, I don't know, maybe they just don't like talking about it. Sometimes it can be an awkward conversation to have, talking to people about money.
And I like to pay people back quickly, because I like to be paid back quickly if it's big amounts. I know sometimes people have difficult financial situations, and if you do have difficulty, I think, again, a conversation needs to be had there rather than just leaving it.
No, that is really important, actually, because I feel like this is never done a lot of the times. If you've got issues with paying rent, paying your bills, or like contributing towards different things on Splitwise, you need to tell your flatmates, because if they don't know, they're going to be getting annoyed when actually they don't need to be getting annoyed.
But it is difficult, because again, they don't want to be shouldering your financial issues, and that's probably a common situation in London at the moment. But just, you know, be on top of your finances and look at what you can afford, and don't just not pay people back. Shall we move on to talking about kind of a cleaning rota, if you want to make one, or just sharing the cleaning tasks and household chores between people? Because we tried making a cleaning rota and no one ever said
I hate cleaning rotas.
Yeah, it wasn't very successful.
Yeah. When I first moved into this new house, like I said, it's all been set up before. They had a cleaning rota, which we have now wiped off. But it was like, it had bins and washing up and all that.
Right, mopping the floor, cleaning the microwave,
hoovering the hallways. And the way it was done was, when you did your chore, you took your name off the list and we were in like a circuit, and you'd write the next name. So it kind of worked, but the problem is, I generally don't mind cleaning that much, and I would just clean stuff. I don't know,
that's normal.
So I didn't mind doing, like, I don't know, I always feel like the housework, the best situation for me was my second year situation, which is the first house I rented, where we actually just discussed which tasks we liked and which tasks we didn't like. I cleaned the bathrooms and the boys took out the rubbish, and I was perfectly happy with that situation, because I hate taking bins out, don't know why.
And even kind of things like cooking, maybe one person likes cooking, one person likes cleaning up afterwards.
Yeah, no, I've done lots of group meals in the past and made like a cooking rota. Oh, another thing to mention, because this is a really big problem, I think, is people having like a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a partner who are essentially living in the house, and whether they contribute or not, because that can lead to a lot of tension. I feel like a discussion does need to be had if someone's in your house that amount of the week, especially towards bills.
Sometimes an offer of a contribution is nice.
But sometimes people have great experiences with other people moving in. But I was going to say about bills, I forgot to say this earlier. This year, so this new house I'm at, we've used Fused, which is like a fixed bill for each month. I'm not sure if it's actually worked out cheaper or not with the whole year. We pay, I think it's £70 a month for everything minus Wi-Fi, and I found that worked quite well this year, because I could then at least have the heating on. Oh, and please remember to turn the heating off when you go out and you're the last person to leave, because
and lights and just anything that uses energy.
At this point, it's so expensive, you just need to be a little bit more on it. In the past, okay, you can be a little bit lazy, but not great for the planet, but at least you're not breaking the bank. But I would get really mad when I'd get home from a day at uni to an empty house, which is blasted with heat, which I would then have to switch off because it had been on all day and freeze to death.
Heating on and windows open. No. Worst combo. We wanted to talk next about inspections, because when I was renting, we had people from the letting agent come at set intervals of time, or maybe it was quarterly. They'd come in and they'd check the house to see if we were looking after it as per the tenancy agreement.
See, in my experience, they've never really happened.
Really? They're supposed to give you
warning.
They're
meant to happen. Oh yeah, this is something I've told off estate agents for, because you should know your rights, and they can't just turn up. They have to give you 24 hours notice. Because like, it annoys me when someone says, oh, we're having an inspection today. I'd always reply saying, no, I want 24 hours notice because I'm out right now and, you know, I want the house to be in good order. But yeah, I've had like a couple of inspections, but they've not really been what I thought they'd be.
It's just one person who rocks up and then looks in each room and takes a photo, right?
I don't know. Well, this time
and then writes a few notes.
So this is the one inspection I've ever had, was this year, where our estate agent turned up with the landlord.
The landlord came themselves?
Yeah.
See, some landlords like to be more involved than other landlords, because I never interacted with
Sometimes
my
you won't even know your landlord's name, and
yeah.
But yeah, our landlord showed up. I wasn't in, but apparently she just walked around, complained about a few really pointless things. For example, she complained that we had the recycling bag hung up on a door. We never got a formal report from it, so that's what you're meant to get. So they didn't actually do their jobs properly. So
make sure you take photos of everywhere when you move in, to any existing marks. Yeah, take a video.
Go around with the estate agent pointing it out.
Yeah, find any issues that they might later blame for you
they
for
will
an
try
inspection
and blame it
or
on
something.
you.
And just an inventory track. You should get an inventory, make sure it's accurate and everything they say is in the house and the condition it's in is correct.
Yeah.
They'll do a full write-up before you move in.
Well, they should do. I never get sent them sometimes. It's actually a mess.
You need to check it and make sure it's accurate.
But yeah, should we talk about landlords in general?
Yeah, dealing with landlords.
Dealing with difficult landlords.
Yeah, because often, you know, when you're living in a house, you are going to have to interact with your letting agent, through them, your landlord. Maintenance issues and kind of keeping the house maintained is the landlord's responsibility. Yeah. Things like your appliances or even the furniture might belong to the landlord if there's defects with those.
If you get mice, that's the landlord's problem. You just have to report it. That's your job as a tenant, and that ends there. We've had issues with our last two sets of landlords. Before that, we've not had many issues. Like, we've had such good experiences in the past. They've just kind of been good about it. Whenever we've put in any maintenance, they've sent someone out within 24 hours. But our last landlords wouldn't even reply to my emails by the end of our tenancy. And I wasn't being an unreasonable person, I don't think. But they'd come round to our house once and they'd shouted at one of my friends.
That's terrible.
I know. Over nothing. It was clean. Like, it was clean. Because we knew they'd been coming that day, so we just cleaned it. And shouted saying, oh, the flat's never been in worse condition than it is now, it's all your fault, we're not going to be happy, you're going to have trouble getting your deposit back, blah blah blah. I sent an email saying I don't think this is acceptable behaviour to come around, and they were also like, oh, we're going to give you an inspection tonight now, a formal inspection. I said, you won't be coming around tonight because I want 24 hours written notice for the inspection. And I listed all the stuff they shouted at my friend about and said, this is issues that we have raised with you. So you've got to make sure you are sending your landlord the issues, because if not, they will
be on the pulse. As soon as there's an issue, get that reported in a maintenance report. Often letting agents have kind of systems online which you can submit the report through, or you can send an email if you've got a contact there, but just make sure it's recorded.
My estate agents, I think they mean well, I just think they're stupid. I've been emailing them all year long. I've literally got a stream of emails between me and my property manager. Have you ever heard the word revert before? Revert. I will revert. That's all she ever says. She's going to revert. We've had mice, we've had a broken oven, we have a broken washing machine, we've had issues with the drains black flowing, you name it. Oh, we also had the extractor fan on the ceiling fall down at one point.
Do they do anything about it, or are they just very slow?
They're very slow. So when our oven broke, we reported it that night. We sent an email and they were like, oh, okay, we'll send an electrician round. And we're like, great, when? You know, thinking today. They were, oh, maybe next week.
I think it's just about getting people to come around and look at maintenance issues in a time frame that you would be able to do if you were the house owner and you were going off yourself and calling in engineers, whatever, to look at things. That's the time frame that
how long would you want that thing to be broken for? We also have issues with pests, and we've sent in all our like pest issues. I've sent them photos of a dead mouse and stuff to like make it clear we've got Paige hates mice, so she would hate this.
I would not be able to cope. I'd move out.
Well, I had to arrange pest control gone myself, which I shouldn't have had to have done because it's actually their responsibility. I just had to report the problem. They said, oh, you need to contact pest control. And I thought, I'm not going to argue because I'm sick of emailing, so I will just book a visit.
Yeah.
So pest control came round, I spoke to them, they did the diagnosis and they put the traps down and they told me what needed to happen. They sent a formal report basically saying it was nothing the tenants had done, it wasn't a housekeeping issue. I went on holiday and the landlord intervened and organised her own visit with pest control and made them cancel the report because she didn't want to pay to have the vents filled in, but she didn't tell my estate agent that this is what she'd done, and I was then having a very long confusing conversation with my estate agent, and I don't know
the
what
landlord thought that they could deal with the mice, it's alright.
Basically, and didn't want to pay for the work to be done.
It's always a communication thing.
So it turned into and anyway, it all came to, this is after, it's been a month of this same conversation, to the point where I try and be really polite, because I feel like you've always got to be polite to everyone no matter what, and I was just keep being like, yeah, I don't quite know what's happened, but we have dead mice tipping up in the kitchen.
So you still have mice housemates as we speak?
We do still have mice housemates. You can come over and meet them if you like.
Oh, it's actually terrible.
But yeah, anyway, it all came to blows last week where, because we were having issues with the oven as well, so we were getting a little bit annoyed by this point. We were like, we literally can't cook food or wash our clothes, and we have mice, and you keep just saying you'll revert. What does that mean? Actually revert. And then they called me, which actually I think was better. Call them sometimes. It's actually so much easier to discuss it in person.
Much further on calls than on emails before. Our biggest issue that we had when I was renting was our boiler broke, and
our boiler broke too. Snap.
It took a long time for them to A, look at it to start off with, and B, fix it. We sent in so many maintenance reports with the issues. Bear in mind, this is in the winter as well, so we had freezing cold showers, no heating. Sometimes it was on and off, but a lot of the time it was just off and just wouldn't turn on. And then what happened is we had some engineer come and look at it, and because it was temperamental, they came and looked at it when it was on its on period. But the engineer spoke to us and was like, yeah, you're going to need a replacement, or there's definitely something wrong with it. And I was like, okay, great. Anyway, we didn't hit anything for ages and we were stuck with a boiler that wasn't working. I emailed the agent like, what's going on? You said you were going to fix this. They were like, oh yeah, so the boiler guy said that it was all working fine. The landlord thought she'd delay any upgrades until summer. And I thought, well, did you ever think it might be good to tell us that? Because we as the tenants are having issues. And last we thought was, we'd spoken to the boiler guy, he'd admitted there was a problem. We'd spoken to you, you'd admitted there was a problem, you're going to fix it. And you didn't. It's always communication and the parties.
I sometimes wish that everyone could just be in the room together at once. Problem is, it shouldn't happen. It's such a shame that this sort of thing does happen. Like, I've got other friends who've had troubles with landlords.
You hear so many landlord
horror
stories.
They're not all landlords.
Yeah, this is not all landlords.
There's some really good landlords out there, really lovely landlords, but some of them just don't really...
Giving the rest a bad reputation.
Yeah, are giving the rest a bad reputation. They just want the money and they don't want to then put out expenditure. To be honest, we got a new oven last week and it made me really happy to know that the landlord had to pay out for that.
Should we also talk, the other conversation you'll have with the letting agent is about renewing your contract. At least my letting agent were pushing for us to renew extremely early. They were emailing, then we didn't respond to their email, or I think I did respond and I said, oh, it's, you know, we've only been here 6 months and it's a 12-month contract. But then they basically said, well, if you don't renew in the next month, we're gonna put your rent up. Unfortunately, they do have the power at the moment and it's very hard to negotiate with them.
Yeah, that's what's a real shame. Like, I'm all about negotiating normally in the business world, but actually they don't need you as much as you need them anymore.
Yeah. If they're saying, look, you need to renew now, we're going to put your rent up, it's hard to argue with that. But again, don't be pushed into a decision. Consider your options.
Yeah, because a lot of the time they will want you to stay because it's less hassle for them than having to do the viewings.
Yes.
So you have that little bit of leeway, so you might be able to negotiate. But
it's at least worth going back and saying we're still thinking about it and we don't know what our jobs are going to be doing in 6 months' time.
Well, that's the thing, because normally young professionals and students don't know where they're going to be in 6 months' time.
You don't always have that long-term certainty. No. It is possible though, if you kind of midway through the year, you're midway through a contract and you want to move it, sometimes it's possible to move out if you can find someone to replace you in the house.
There's normally always an out. Like, that's actually quite easy to do these days because of how in demand houses are. Like, you've got a lot of people who are stuck living with their parents because they couldn't find anywhere back in September, say, if they're a student, and they're trying to just find anywhere.
And I think in general the good time for moving is probably like September, August, September time, right?
That's the worst time for moving.
Well, no, it's when all the properties are available, right? If people are on 12-month contracts,
oh,
maybe
true.
they're starting
Okay.
in September.
Yeah, but that's when that's just also when the bloodbath is. I don't know. Well, my friends who I used to live with, they've now, so obviously the 6-month contract, 2 of us went to where I am now, and they had to go off on their own. I think they had an easier time finding a flat to rent in February, just because estate agents would actually take their phone calls. Back last summer, estate agents didn't even want to talk to me. One actually threatened to sue me for defamation, which makes me sound
a fun story.
It makes me sound awful, but I didn't do anything. I don't think.
Did you write a review?
I wrote a review. Well, basically, I phoned them, because I saw a property that they were advertising, and I said, oh, 4 of us would be interested in coming to do a viewing. And he just started shouting at me over the phone. I think he called me stupid at one point. I said, oh, do you understand how difficult it is to have viewings, and like it really bothers the tenants, blah blah blah, like, you know, you're just not being very considerate. Are you serious about this house or not? I wrote a review. I can reread the review. I don't know where it is. I actually think they have taken it down, because they've got all 5 stars. They've taken down all their negative reviews. They've got them taken down. It's so bad that people can do this these days. I got this message the following morning. Good morning, Miss Yallop. I trust you are well. Should the review cause financial loss, harm, reputations, our solicitor will immediately apply for the county court judgment under your name and correspondence address in Brighton. Your review on Google is classed as defamation. We take this extremely seriously, and as the owner of the business, I will absolutely not let this drop. We pride in upholding a great reputation, and I will never allow anyone to go on social media harming my company's reputation.
And then they end this message with, have a good Sunday.
The whole thing was just ridiculous because it's not defamation, but then my dad did a little bit of research, and he found on another site someone had written basically exactly what I'd said, and said they were really rude. Don't know why they've got so many 5-star reviews. They're clearly doing something funny with the reviews here.
Or they're messaging people like that so that people take it down themselves.
Yeah, and make them do it. Because I didn't take mine down. I said, sorry you feel that way, see you in court.
I don't think I have much left on my list, to be honest with you.
Living with people.
Apart from living with people. I think we've kind of covered...
We've kind of said a little bit
a lot
about
of that. I think a lot of it is just about being tolerant.
Don't be that person who's always like writing little passive aggressive notes and...
We did that, to be fair. We had some passive aggressive notes on our whiteboard. Going back and forth. No using the tumble dryer after this time. No using the shower before this time.
Some people are very like intense.
Yeah, well, one of those people was... But
oh god.
I like to go to bed at 11 o'clock. I don't like to be kept up after that time with the tumble dryer going next to my room. I put a polite request. Maybe it wasn't a passive aggressive note. It was a polite request on the whiteboard to not use it at that time.
No. I personally don't care when people take showers. That is their personal hygiene.
Lydia would love people taking as many showers as possible.
They want to shower 2 or 3 times a day, that's fine. I also, there's such a distinction between the people you can be friends with and the people you can live with.
And just because you're finding them difficult to live with doesn't mean they're not your friends.
Yeah, you can still be really good friends with people who you would never want to be in the same house as ever
Separate
again.
the friendship from
the living
housemate
situation.
status. Yeah. It's fun living with other young people.
Yeah.
You can do meals together, you can do games nights, do film nights, you can go out to the pub together. Also though, kind of talking about interacting with housemates, it's nice to actually get to know your housemates. If you're moving in with people who you don't know that well, or you've just like you're renting one room off a spare room, it's nice to talk to people in the kitchen. Like it's quite uncomfortable otherwise. I just don't like it not feeling comfortable in kind of the communal living spaces. But even if you're not going to be the best of friends, just like a nice conversation, how was your day?
Try and be a good flatmate. I will say this, try and just do something nice. I think it sets the right vibe.
The whole way through my year renting, anytime one of us was at the shops, we used to buy a packet of cookies or a packet of donuts. We'd put them in a communal snack space.
That's fun.
Isn't that nice?
That's
so
nice.
You could always just help yourself to a yum yum or a donut. I'm getting quite tired now.
I'm hungry.
I'm feeling tired and hungry. So I think we're going to wrap up this video here. But if you have any of your own thoughts or experiences,
any good renting stories, I love a nightmare landlord story.
Yeah, all the renting stories, drop them in the comment section below. Do you know what you have to say, Lydia?
Like and subscribe, hit that like button.
Do that. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, follow my TikTok. Thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you soon with another video.
Happy renting, everybody.
Bye.